Welcome everybody. Welcome back to our main theme of the week. This is it right here. This is my main attraction of the week. TWISI podcast. I'm your co-host Terry Longmore, and I'm rolling with my partner in crime, co-host Conrad Meacham. How you doing, partner?
Hey man, I can't complain. Every day above ground is a good day, my brother. So good to see you. May you stay blessed.
Nice, thank you, man. Likewise, man. We want to say first of all, before we get into it, this podcast is sponsored by Grown Folks Grooves, captained by my main man Conrad Meacham, and of course Next Phase Fitness. And we're trying to do the thing here in London and hopefully around the country, and hopefully at times goes by worldwide. But we're gonna start with the local thing. Take care of London first. You understand? Welcome to our podcast. Like my main man Conrad said last week, we've been gone for a while, so we reignited the podcast last week. This week we're doing another podcast. We're hopefully gonna get you one weekly. And yeah, it's been a lot of things happening in the world today. So we got some topics we want to cover today. And before we get into it, real quickly, Conrad, your thoughts about President Trump, Clown Trump, finally conceded that he has to get out of there. Your thoughts quickly.
Okay, that was the most punk concession statement I've ever seen in my life. Now, what the Bama did was he tried to get out in front of something that was inevitable.
Yeah.
Because it had already been decided by the person in charge of GSA that they was going to go ahead and it was going to make the transition kick into play. He figured, well, I better jump on my preferred choice of communications, Twitter, and say that I said, go ahead and do that. That clown wasn't intending on doing that at all, man. That's all fronting.
Well, we know it's definitely not sincere. But I mean, I just find it funny how he just instructed his team, let's go ahead and make this transition possible. I mean,
even though I've lost 57 times this week, I'm gonna go ahead on. I'm gonna act right.
Yeah, well, we're gonna keep it moving. We'll get to him next week, but let's move right along. We got some really interesting topics to cover this week. Once again, it's pandemic because it's taken over the world, and I think it's befitting that we start by talking about the topics that is actually trending quite popular, but not for the right reasons, but also for the right reasons, but also for some very scary reasons. Let's talk about the coronavirus, COVID-19. It's a pandemic. We've been saying that for months now. Certain governments have known about this for years. We talk about it all the time. How bad is bad, man? Are you worried? Are you really concerned? I mean, where are you at with this?
So I'm concerned. To be quite frank about it, disappointed in some of the people's behavior as far as not wanting to wear masks and not trying to do the right thing to help us, get out of this situation. It's very serious. Me and my family, as you and your family have been, we've been abiding by the rules. We've been, staying safe, not going out unnecessarily, we're wearing masks. And I'm kind of tired of being stuck in the house. And I believe if the government had done a stronger lockdown from the beginning, we probably wouldn't be in the position that we're in. But I can't see the future, and I don't know. I'm really concerned about how it's gone into its second wave during such a critical time. And by critical time, I mean critical time for people emotionally, because you have holidays in America. You got Thanksgiving. Here you've got Diwali. We've got Christmas coming up. And I think people need to be around people. They need to be around their loved ones. And not having that ability is going to be playing havoc on people's mental health, I believe. That's the way I see it.
And in terms of when you said that you're disappointed in some of the people's behavior, are you referring to the governments or just individuals?
I'm talking about the government and individuals, because the government should have done more quicker. And there are people that are running around the streets. You got people giving misinformation about it's a pandemic, it's a hoax, it's this, it's that. You know, just trying to follow the rules and do what's right. And the other thing, as far as being a critical time, businesses will suffer greatly. Retail businesses, your business, the hospitality industry, because this is a time of year where people spend a lot of money either doing shopping. This is where the Black Friday comes from. We've got Black Friday coming up, and that's where a lot of businesses actually get to balance their books, because the amount of money that's been spent during that time period, it helps them balance out their books for the entire year, because that much money is spent. So, you know, it's a lot of things as far as that goes.
You know, I often hear people say that they criticize the government. Like, you know, in the U.S., they never really had a lockdown, so they done lost their damn mind over there. But that's because they had an idiot leader. That's for one thing.
Yeah.
Thank God that man was leaving. Because one thing Joe Biden's talking about doing is he's going to try to mandate wearing the mask on a national level. So
Yeah.
that's one thing that might sort of curtail the spread of the virus. I mean, some people actually are quite dubious about whether or not the mask does do anything at all. However, I guess one thing I sort of struggle is what could government, especially in this country, what could they have done differently? I mean, the only thing they could have done differently was probably lock down sooner, from what I understand, from what I see.
And had a lockdown like they did in Wuhan.
Oh God,
Wuhan
damn,
had
like
a
lock it
proper
down, lock it down.
Lock it down, lock it down. You know, it wouldn't have killed anybody to have people locked down for a 3-4 month period, rather than playing with them, letting them out, telling them no, you can't go out, letting them out, or you can go out for a little while. And people get to the point where they don't know what the rules are. You know, they don't know if they can go out. They don't know if they can go visit somebody. They don't know if they can have a party. They don't know if they can have a barbecue. You know, to be totally honest, there have been so many different changes in the rules, and now we got tiers over here. I don't really have a clue on what I can do, so I just stay in the house.
Well, I tell you what, the tier thing, to me, almost like it's confusing people, because and just for the viewers who don't know what tiers are, what England did. The government came up with different tiers based on the severity of your area that you live in England and or the UK. And if it's if you have severely high cases, then you have to stay locked down. And severely high cases are based on the ratio of people living in your part of. We don't have states in England, but they have like counties. So in London, which is probably the highest affected place in all of England and the UK, they may have tier 3, which is the most severe. And tier 1, which could be in Bristol, could be where they have the least severe cases. And so you have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Now I hear they're going to come up with a tier 4. God knows what that means.
Yeah, I heard. Yeah, and then there's something else that's not even a tier. It's called something else.
Yeah, so what Conrad is saying, the tier basically determines how much of a lockdown it really is. Now, we're on our second lockdown here in London, or in England, in the UK, or England, because yeah, I guess you could say the UK, because Scotland and Ireland is still on a lockdown, from what I understand. That's confusing. But even that's confusing. I'm like, God damn, how you not
Are
gonna
we
have
supposed to be giving them
become
information, or are we supposed to be giving them information or confusing them more?
confusing them more? That's the next level. So we're on a second lockdown. We started November the 2nd, and it don't even really feel like a lockdown.
No, it doesn't. Not to me.
I'm in the next phase headquarters right now, and I mean the school, which is a little elementary school, which is next to us, that's been open because obviously schools in England can't open, whereas in the U.S. they've locked the schools down. And in the U.S. I just found out yesterday. Well, I didn't actually know this until yesterday, that New York has the highest rates of public schools, or in England they call it state schools. Has the highest rate of state schools in the entire country, in New York.
Really?
Yeah, and all their schools are closed. All their schools closed. So all the kids are doing virtual training. I called my sister in D.C. last week. And I was telling her, my kids are going to school. She was like shocked because ain't nobody going to school over there. They're all doing virtual training. So you're right. If there was a lockdown, like a serious lockdown, just lock it down and then go from there.
Yeah.
Now I'm hearing when we come out of lockdown December 2nd, I'm hearing that we're going to be out partying, rubbing nose, rubbing titties together. I don't know. And then after Christmas, lock it down again for a couple of months.
After everybody gone out and licked each other's face, then we're going to lock it down.
Now we're going to lock it down again. So I don't get that one. But yeah, you're right. I mean, people's emotional state, I believe, is a real issue. But I want to read you some facts real quick. So,
my man always got the facts. That's what I like. My man always got the facts.
Here's some COVID-19 facts, right? So in the UK alone, we got 1.5 million cases in the UK alone to date. And currently in the UK, there's 55,230 deaths. In England alone, so UK, for the viewers who don't know, the UK consists of England, Scotland, and Northern Ireland, and Wales. Not Southern Ireland, just Northern Ireland. They didn't chop them bammers in half. So Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and England is the UK. Now England is just England. So England only has 1.31 million cases. Now remember, the UK got 1.5 million. England has 1.3 million and 48,406 deaths. So the difference is 200,000 cases more. Well, the difference of England and the UK is 200,000. And the difference in deaths between the UK and England is 6,824. So virtually in all of England, no matter how small you might think England is, there's 48,000 deaths recorded and 1.3 million cases. Now let's go globally. So now just sniff that one for a minute. Globally, we have 59.2 million cases worldwide, 1.4 million deaths worldwide. England got 40,000 of them own by themselves, right? And got 1.53 million cases of the 59 million worldwide, little old England. Now, let's go to the jokers over across the pond, you know, our hometown. So DC is kind of all right, but the US in general has over 12 million cases of COVID-19 cases and over 255,000 deaths. So just under 256,000 deaths. So basically you have so globally there are 1.4 million deaths. So about a third of those deaths alone is in the US. So you add the US and the UK, they damn near almost got close to 400,000 deaths in just those two countries only. So one is really big, which is the US, one ain't that damn big, which is the UK. And so when you think about it from that point of view, that's when you have to look at it and put it into perspective that the death toll is quite high. Now, when in Europe, when the pandemic hit Europe, England was very slow to react. And Italy at that stage in May had the highest death toll in all of Europe at 25,000-ish deaths. They probably just the 35 now. So in Italy, which is a bigger country than the United Kingdom, has more people than the United Kingdom, has less deaths. So that tells a story in itself. So because when they locked it down, they were giving people to step outside. You came outside to breathe some air, you were getting a ticket. And possibly going.
And it was like that. It was like that in the Mediterranean, I think, in general, because my son Christopher was telling me how Greece was handling it, and Greece was throwing out 10,000-pound fines like they was throwing out annihilators.
God damn.
Step out there if you want to.
God damn. And apparently France and Italy was like that too. They were giving people fines, like huge fines. And you have to wear face masks in these countries, even if you go outside to go buy some annihilators. So if you want to go to the corner store and buy you a mop bucket, you don't get a mop upside your head, you better put a mask on. But on that note, I was talking to one of my buddies in North Carolina, who moved from DC, North Carolina, and he was saying that, some stores don't allow you to go in unless you have a face mask.
Yeah.
So it didn't make the news over here, obviously, but it made the news in the U.S. It definitely made news in North Carolina. A lady was beef with another store owner because she wanted to put a mask on. The woman said, "You got to put a mask on, you ain't coming in." She took her knife out, stabbed the woman 27 times and killed her.
Over a mask?
Over a mask. So
oh man,
the severity is that this goes back to when we were saying last week about the Trump hysteria. It isn't so much about whether or not he's a good statesman, because he's not. It isn't so much about he's a good politician, which he's not. It's not even about whether or not he's a good leader, which he's not. Well, it depends what you're leading. If you're leading the rednecks and the hillbillies, he's a good leader for y'all. But
he's
if you're
knocking that out
leading
the
a country of unison and a lack of division, then he's not. And even if you're talking about he's a good business leader, then he's not either, because it depends. If you consider a good leader or good business leader and ignore the deficit, then yeah, he's great for y'all because he's just spending money like he's making it rain. But if you take into accountability that you have to pay some of that stuff back, then he ain't a good leader economically because he just spending what ain't there. And somebody like Biden and them got to pick up that tab. So let's put some perspective on leaders and money. This is a true fact. So when Clinton had the, in the 90s, when Clinton ran America, we ain't talking about the Monica Lewinsky thing. I ain't gonna go there with the Monica Lewinsky.
No, we're gonna
push
that to the side. We're gonna push that to the side.
Push that to the side. Oval Office had to get a little something, something. Push that to the side. Push that to the side.
Knowledge is a terrible thing to waste.
No, terrible thing to waste. Terrible thing to waste. So let me stop. Bill Clinton handed an economy to George Bush Jr.
That's a fact. Yeah,
it was a cash surplus. I don't want to get the figures right. By next podcast, I'll get the figure right. But let's just say circa around 600 billion. That was a surplus of cash George Bush inherited when he became president.
America was in the black.
We were in the black, 600 billion. Just say 600 billion. I might have a few million here or there missing, but some of that nature. And if I got the figures wrong, I'll happily correct myself by next week. When Bush Jr. left office, the U.S. had a deficit of 1.3 trillion. So
within 4 years, within 4 years, he had used up that surplus.
So within 8 years, America had a debt. So now, when Obama took office, he had to take care of that debt and reduce the debt. So when Trump inherited an economy, he inherited a country with less debt. He still had debt, but he had less debt than when he inherited the economy. Now he's going to leave office after only 4 years, and he's increased that debt. So that's the idea, just from an economic perspective, of what a leader can do for a country. So people ain't going to talk about that because to them it's like, oh, Trump released a few brothers out of penitentiary and gave them pardon. And your point is, he could still call you a Negro, but still give a few brothers pardon. And so
then all of a sudden he's for the black community.
Now he's for black and beautiful. Don't buy it, y'all. Don't buy it. It ain't saying that Biden's going to be the answer, because I don't think Biden's the answer either. But he's a little better than that Bama. So the reality is, I agree with you, Conrad. The pandemic is something to be worried about because, and next we're going to give you the statistics about. I did a blog recently about how many pandemics we've had since 1919, when we had that big pandemic, the Spanish flu over about 100 years ago. We've experienced globally about 20 pandemics in the last 100 years, and that's just the ones we know of. In Central America, they still have the Zika virus, which is now about 4 years old, and there's still no cure for it. So the reality is this thing is going to be with us for a hot minute. This coronavirus. So the message is to everybody, just comply to the best of your ability, because complying is better than dying. And I'm gonna leave it there.
And I think the figure was 6 trillion, my brother.
Hold up. So you tell me hold up. You told me when George Bush Jr. took office, it was a $6 trillion debt?
Clinton's surplus
Yeah.
turned into a $6 trillion debt by Bush.
Does it state how much his surplus was when he handed over to Bush?
I have to read into that. I'm just picking up points as I go along. But he gave him, hold on, 280 billion.
200. Okay, I wailed on 400 billion. Okay. I know it was a couple $100 billion. I just had the numbers wrong. The digit was a little fucked up.
As long as it was billions, it was all right. As long as you was
There
in
you
the
go.
billions.
There you go. So he gave him a surplus of 250 billion, and he turned it into a $6 trillion debt. That's my man, 50 grand. He was making it rain. He was making it rain.
He was spending like there wasn't no tomorrow.
So imagine if then so imagine we're gonna touch we're gonna move to the next topic. So Obama took office, so he had a $6 trillion debt, and he had a global recession.
Yes.
Go figure.
But people quick to say, well, Obama didn't do nothing. He ain't do nothing. I can't see it. I'm sorry. As far as I can tell, he was doing his business. He wasn't on the golf course every other day. I tell you that for nothing.
But there you go. And he was talking about Obama's on the golf course more than him. So
yeah,
we're gonna revisit that next week. So we're gonna leave that there. The moral of the story with the pandemic, it's hitting over 59 million people have been affected globally. There's been over 1 million deaths. The UK alone has over 48,000 deaths. In the US alone, if you're in the US, there's over 255,000 deaths. That's a lot of bodies. I don't care what nobody say. I come from DC. We're both from DC, and I remember DC was a murder capital of the nation.
The world at one point.
For a good 2-3 years in the 80s and early 90s, and we're talking over 500 bodies a year dying from gunshots. So when you put that into perspective, that's a lot of people. Multiply that by thousands. You got over 255,000 people dying from something you can't even see.
Yeah, and that's just in the U.S.
That's just in the U.S. So we're going to keep it moving. So second topic, we're going to talk about, I'm going to pull this spam up because you're going to laugh at this one. I want to go right to, I'm going in. Let's talk about Boris Johnson.
Lord.
Boris Johnson has this girl, Priti Patel, who is on the conservative cabinet. So she's on his cabinet. It's like being a president, and that's like your right-hand person within the Senate or within your delegates that run.
She's the Home Secretary.
Right. So I didn't want to go there because that was like I didn't want to embarrass Boris. I'm gonna give Boris a little bit of credit. I didn't want to say this. He has a bona fide position in government, right?
Yes.
So when you say the Home Secretary, that's like saying the person who basically you have to talk.
Secretary of State. Secretary of State. Like
Secretary of State. It's a serious position, a serious bona fide position, right? There is a committee in England that looks at they got a task force for everything, code of conduct. So the code of conduct task force, supposedly whatever they're called, looked into her conduct as Home Secretary and found out she was bullying people. Right?
So just to put a finer point on it, Terry, the group that look at that were specifically only looking at PMP's conduct, not everybody.
Not everybody.
Just members of Parliament.
Right.
Their conduct, and there's a code of conduct for members of Parliament. That's all they were looking at. They wasn't trying to figure out everybody else's code of conduct, just how an MP is supposed to behave. Go ahead.
How you supposed to conduct your professional conduct. She's proven, without a shadow of doubt, Stevie Wonder can see she broke the conduct.
No doubt.
Guilty of breaking the professional code of conduct, and to be even more specific, she was bullying people. Now, I looked into this broad because I'm thinking to myself, maybe she's some big, savage-looking chick. She's 5'3", weighs $102, soaking wet. Well, maybe $120 if you give her some chicken wings. But she's 5'3", ain't much of her. So I'm thinking to myself, damn, That little ass woman is bullying people. She got a short woman's complex, and she was found guilty. So when you get found guilty, generally speaking, you're supposed to get fired, right?
Or you step down, you
Or
resign.
you step down.
You get a choice to keep your dignity.
You keep your dignity because you don't want the heat. You said, no, it's too much smoke. I can't handle that smoke. I'm gonna step down to keep to preserve the prestige of my conservative party. I'm gonna step down. No, she not only did she not step down, Boris Johnson, the leader, turned around and said, "You ain't got to step down. Forget all that. You all right by me." He ignored the findings and kept her in her post. How'd you like those apples? Go ahead, comrade. Speak on it.
It's even more than that. Well, but really, you have to understand every little bit of it. It's so much that's going on with this. If you miss parts out, you kind of don't get the full flavor. It's like if you get some chicken wings and half of the chicken wing got some mumbo sauce on it, the other half ain't got nothing on it. You got to get the whole chicken wing covered in mumbo sauce. The guy that wrote the report is a peer.
Yep.
What does that mean? He's royalty. He's been said, okay, you the man. It's like being a made man in the gangsters. Yeah. He wrote the report. Boris read the report, and the way that it was worded, what he came up with and said that Priti Patel did not meet the code of conduct. So she wasn't meeting the standard they expected from a member of parliament. That's how they worded it. They also cited that, yes, it could have been intentional bullying or it may not have been intentional bullying. Bottom line is it was bullying. I don't care how you dress it up.
Right.
The other thing about Priti Patel is she's a notorious rule breaker. Now, by that, she was in a different administration, went off and decided to have some meetings in Israel, and they threw her up out of that government. So she's coming to this government with that same, oh, I'm going to do what I want to do and I'm going to behave the way I want to behave. And now she's moved on to bullying. And she hasn't, as you said, Terry, she has not stepped down. Boris co-signed that behavior. And then he going to say...
But she left the referendum party and then came to the Conservative Party. You mean that?
No. She wasn't part of the referendum. It was actually the last, I believe it was the last PM she was with.
Oh,
and she went off. Yeah, she went off and had meetings that she wasn't authorized to have with another government.
Yes.
And they let her go from there. Yep. So she didn't came back in here with the same kind of behavior. So she's a notorious rule breaker. So for Boris to say, nah, I don't see a problem with that, and let's draw a line at her, it just smacks of the same thing that happened with Dominic Cummings and his foolishness, how he did what he wanted to do. And Boris really just needs to say goodbye, because his thing, the way I see it is, Boris is lazy, and Boris doesn't want to make any more work for himself. So if he's got somebody in position that's doing a job, he's going to leave him in there until the job is done, and he's not going to look out for what's the right thing to do. It's always going to be what's the easy thing to do for Boris Johnson.
The thing about Boris is that, so my next point, part two of that point was after Priti Patel situation. You don't think Boris is going to last his term of 5 years?
I think I read somewhere that there's rumors that Boris is going to roll out next year sometime.
As in going to step down?
Yep.
All right, so once Brexit gets through, whatever Brexit is, then he's going to step down.
That's what I've read. Is there are rumors and murmurings around that that's what Boris is going to do. I guess he's tired of it. It ain't fun.
Well, unlike the U.S. politics, in the U.K. politics, you have a thing called backbenchers. So the ruling party is the Conservative Party, which is similar to the Republican Party in the U.S. And because they hold similar values, which means it's nothing. But yeah, so the nothing. Nothing. Ain't about nothing.
Zero.
So the backbenchers are always, they call them the rebel MPs. These are the guys who, behind the scenes, who make all the noise to either keep you within your position of authority or run you the hell up out of there. And the rebel MPs, about 70 of them, and they've been gunning for him since the beginning of COVID. So they're actually gunning for him to step down or ask for, I don't think a snap election is actually worth it. I think him stepping down would probably be the easiest thing, and then let the Conservative Party sort it out amongst themselves who their next leader would be. So I think that a cousin of mine once said, excuse me, a cousin of mine once said to me here, Wayne said that when Boris gets elected, you will clearly soon see that he will be exposed because he's incapable of governing. And I got to say, he was dead right to the money. Because that Bama
spot on, my man Wayne.
He can't rub two nickels together and make a decision.
The best thing he did was come up with those bicycles in London.
And that wasn't even really his idea. That was Ken Livingston's idea. He just jumped on that one. Called him Boris.
He's got a different sponsor. He got a different sponsor.
A different sponsor. So the reality is, I think that what this Priti Patel thing I find very interesting because she's made some pretty outlandish comments in the last several weeks. And as an Asian woman who represents a minority or from an ethnic minority group in this country, you would have thought the support of other ethnic groups would have been greater, just to kind of like become a beacon light for ethnic groups who thrive in politics or thrive in positions of professionalism and strive in positions of authority. And I just thought that, she could be a better role model and example, not just for ethnic minorities, but for women, because she's in a very high position, and for women in itself, she could have a bit more decorum in that position of leadership. So I think she's let herself down royally in that. And I think Boris himself, once again, has shown his indecisiveness in terms of how to govern and how to act as a decisive leader. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. He took the decision that was best for Boris and not best for the people or the best for his party, as well as that goes, because and it's a slippery slope, because if you start co-signing bullying, where's the line drawn? Because next, what is it going to be? Sexual harassment?
Yeah.
Where does it stop? And I must say that I am disappointed in Priti Patel. One, primarily, she is a minority. She is a female, and I'm sure at some point in her life, she did experience either bullying or she did experience some kind of racism. And I would have expected her to be a beacon of hope on how to behave and how to go high when they go low, and not to be a bully yourself to those that are under you.
Yeah, I think the problem with Priti Patel is that my dad used to always say, some people just don't believe, shit stink. And the problem is that with her, when you get to a position of authority, you sort of think that you've made it, or you sort of think that
you're one of them
because I am where I am. Y'all better get where I'm at, because that's it. And I believe that with the Boris indecisiveness, as we speak on this podcast, it's important to understand that the world is watching, and you are a leader. So whenever a leader doesn't show decorum or even acts accordingly by abiding by these professional codes of conduct, you lay a bad precedence for the country, because then you're telling everyone else in authority, y'all just do what y'all want to do, because I've let Priti Patel off the hook. So anyone else that misbehaves, y'all can do the same thing too. So it's a very dangerous game he's playing, and it leaves precedents of showing that the country is not going to abide by rules, especially as leader. Therefore, why should you?
Yeah, it's buck wild politics,
Buck wild politics it is. So here on TWISI, the way I see it, we're going to hold the court, put the verdict down. Priti should go, and so should Boris. So y'all
absolutely.
Tell us what you think.
I approve that message.
You approve that message? Okay, John.